Hello, sisters. Welcome to She Talks. I'm Sara Avant Stover, a yoga and meditation teacher, best-selling author, and founder of The Way the Happy Woman. And I'm so happy to share that my brand new book, The Book of She, Your Heroine's Journey into the Heart of Feminine Power, is now available wherever books are sold and at thebookofshe.com. To celebrate her arrival throughout the months of October and November, I'll be featuring a special series called She Stories, where we hear the heroines' journeys of 14 inspiring female leaders. I'm so happy you're here, and I hope you enjoyed today's interview. Hello, beautiful women. Welcome home. Welcome to She Talks. And today I'm speaking with a friend of mine, a colleague, Jennifer Lee. And Jennifer is the founder of Artisan Coaching. She's the author of The Right Brain Business Plan and Building Your Business the Right Brain Way. If you haven't read these books or heard of them, I encourage you to get them right away. You'll have all the information about Jen in the show notes for this episode. But these books and her approach is really revolutionary in bringing the creative spirit and our joy and our authenticity into the center of our work life, particularly for entrepreneurs. So, Jen, welcome. It's really, really nice to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. I'm so excited about your new book and to get to chat with you. I have my cup of tea ready, so yeah.
Great. And Jen and I often joke that she's been my book big sister for the past several years. We're both authors with New World Library, and Jen has always been about 1 or 2 years ahead of me on the book publishing schedule, so she's often been there to answer questions for me as they come up on my book writing journey, and I've just so appreciated our friendship and your support over these years.
Absolutely. It's really nice to know we're not alone. I think that's one of the things about sisterhood, right?
Exactly.
Be able to lean in and get support. So my pleasure.
And Jen, we always begin our gatherings here at The Way the Happy Woman with a little personal check-in. So I'd love for you just to settle in a little bit more deeply with your cup of tea and to share with us where you're calling in from today and how you're doing at the level of your body, mind, and heart.
I love that. I love that you bring such grounded energy to whatever space you're in. So thank you for inviting that in here. I am calling in from the Bay Area, specifically the East Bay, El Cerrito, California. And today, I was mentioning to you, Sarah, that I'm actually tired. A little bit. It's so funny. It's been really hot, and then now, well, it's not that cold, but I'm cold today. I actually had my heater on, so I have like a little bit of the jitters because I feel a little cold. So I have a little bit of that with me. And I also have like excitement of being able to have this conversation with you and these women here because you're opening us up to some really important work. So maybe that's part of what the jitters are too.
Well, it's a chilly day here in Boulder as well, and I'm dressed in my sweater, and I even have a scarf on. It's also been very hot here up until a couple of days ago, so it feels nice, but it takes some getting used to.
Yeah.
So with these interviews, we've been starting with kind of the opposite, or the counterpart to the heroine's journey. We've been starting with the hero's journey. Was that a narrative that you related to in your life, that you have related to? And if so, how?
Sure. It's such a great question. I don't think I was really aware of it, like in my growing up years. I mean, obviously, I've seen the movie Star Wars and all those kind of things. But in terms of a concept, I didn't learn about it until a little bit later. But looking back, kind of I related to it, yes and no. One in that, you know, and I was reading your book, the whole idea of like being the good girl, like getting the good grades, doing good in school, getting into, you know, good college, getting a good job. Like I certainly followed that kind of traditional path, and I thought that was the right way to succeed or the right way to move forward. So I have definitely that built into my system. But also when I think back to like my childhood, if you had told me like, oh, you know, the hero's journey, you're a hero, I didn't think of myself as a hero. Like I didn't think that there was anything particularly special. Like I had a pretty easy childhood, not a whole lot of drama. So in terms of like some intense, you know, call to adventure or, you know, some calling forth, like I didn't really feel that. So, you know, I kind of thought I was just a normal person. And I know that's part of, you know, the beginnings of the hero's journey, but I hadn't really tapped into that until a little bit later.
When did you start to tap into it?
I would say probably definitely when I had my first coach. That kind of opened me up to really getting clear about like, oh, here's what's important to me. Here's how I can make different decisions about my life. And I think that was back in, I don't know, the late 90s, something like that. So I'd already like been to graduate school and all of that, you know, because I was doing the good girl thing, getting the good grades, going to good college, getting a good job. And so that started to open things up for me. And I think the really big shift happened for me when I went through an intensive leadership program through the same place I got my coaching. And that opened my eyes to the idea that, you know, I went into the program like, I don't even know why I signed up for this leadership program, because like I said, I didn't think I was a hero or anything special, but something about it, you know, was intriguing to me. And I had thought, well, you know, I'll go to this leadership program, and leaders are, you know, people who tell people what to do. They know the big vision, and they're very charismatic and loud and extroverted and all those kind of traditional definitions of leadership, or very masculine. And in that program, I really learned that the skills that I naturally have of being more quiet, being more sensitive and intuitive and creative, like those are extremely valuable skills as a leader, and in fact are much needed in the world, you know, even more so today. And so that, I think that's where I really could feel the call to like own more of that in me, to value it, and then to also share it with others and not just have it be something in, you know, for myself. And so that's what really opened it up.
Yes, and then you took that big risk of leaving your job and starting off on your own and building really organically what has come to be a very successful and incredibly unique business.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely that program, the leadership program, where I tapped into like, oh, these are my strengths. Like I have these unique gifts. Like, oh, I am a hero. And then now, you know, I'm a heroine, which we can talk more about. But yeah, like that certainly propelled me on a path to say, you know what? I am so unhappy in my corporate job. Like that's that old path of thinking I needed to keep on climbing the corporate ladder, get promotions, get more money, all that stuff. I'm not following my passion, or I was doing it on the side. You know, I'd go home and do my coaching with clients and all that stuff. But I really wanted to then live that fully, have that be my full-time job, living my passions. And so, yeah, I left my corporate job in 2006. And I'd say probably between 2011 and 2014 were a tremendous growth period within the business. You know, I'd published 2 books, like you mentioned. You know, we've been on similar paths too in terms of business growth. And I look at where my business is now, and I think back to like when I first left the corporate job and what the big vision and dream was. And a lot of it has come true in terms of publishing books, the reach that I have, you know, having a multi-6-figure business, all sorts of things. And what's so funny, or maybe not so funny, is I'm like, oh shit, I hope I can say that here.
You can say it here.
The same drive and ambition and like crazy making that really drove me in my corporate job, I'm doing it to myself, and I'm my own boss, and this is my own business, and this is like the dream that I had, and why is it the same? Like, why do I feel in some respects the same in terms of overworked, stressed, and always wanting to go after the next big thing? So I'm still in that like recovery mode, right. Frankly.
And that's where the heroine's journey begins.
Mm-hmm.
It begins when, we've lived out the hero's journey and we realize that it's not for us, that there must be another way.
Right. Well, it's funny because I thought leaving my corporate job was that change, because I'm leaving my passions. I'm living more in alignment with who I am. I'm having more self-care. But it was still within the mindset of, I want to make six figures. Oh, I've made six figures. I want to make multiple six figures. And, all that same stuff. My list is this big. It needs to be this big. All those same external metrics. But I don't want to disregard the fact that I definitely am living more in alignment with, who I am. I feel like I'm able to have self-expression, and yet there's still those pieces that have really pushed me, forward in good ways, and has been detrimental to my health. Part of my own kind of crisis, if you will, is I've been suffering from like really bad joint pain and fatigue, which you've been aware of since we've gotten to meet up a few times over the past few years. So, that's kind of the cost of what it's been to get my business to where it is. And so I've been kind of recalibrating very consciously this year, because even through 2014, like I started getting the joint pain maybe in 2011, 2012, and I just pushed through it, And then in 2013, I got the book deal. We were moving and just all sorts of crazy stuff. And
it was a big year for you.
It was a big year, and I finished writing the book, and then, okay, the book's coming out in 2014. I need to like work on the book launch and really maximize that. So even though I was really struggling with this health stuff, I kept pushing forward. And so at the end of 2014, it was like, I really can't do this anymore. I need to make some changes. And so this year, 2015, I stepped back from some of the programs that I lead. I'm leaning more on my team, which has been great in some ways and challenging in lots of other ways. And I've said goodbye. I ran my last video summit. It was the fifth and final one. So next year I won't be doing that, but that's been such a big part of how people get to know me. So there's this fear of like, oh no, I'm, letting go of the thing, like
the big thing.
The big thing. Crap. And yet it's like my body is saying, there's no way. Like even when I was running it this year, I had a little bit of a flare up, and I'm like, oh great, I still have like 4 more days where I have to be on. I can't do that to myself anymore. So yeah, it's been really focusing on, how can I keep things steady? Because I'm at a really good place in my business, but I don't need to say, let's get to the next level and the next level, $1 million, all that stuff that I was still really attached to. Really letting that go and saying it's okay if there is no growth, financially I'm growing in different ways. How can I, leverage the team more and really take care of myself in a way that I've been neglecting, and also my creativity. And so I got a studio space in the beginning of the year, which seemed really crazy at the time. Still doesn't really make sense. Like I haven't necessarily used it for my business, but I've been using it for myself because it's what I had been lacking for the past several years, of really having a space for my own creativity.
I love seeing your pictures on Instagram of the different paintings that you're working on, just these gigantic full wall canvases of color and exploration. They just seem to have a lot of joy in them, a lot of freedom.
Yeah, definitely a lot of freedom. And it's a process that I learned, I think it was probably back in 2009, 2010. So it was kind of when I was writing my first book. And it was such a great way to tap into my intuition, my creativity, even, some of the dark stuff of like being frustrated about writing or any of that. Like it would just show up in the painting. And when I moved in 2013, I moved away from Oakland. And so that space that I used to go to with my teacher, Chris Seidel, was, it's kind of a pain to get there from where I am. And so I really miss that. I don't have space in my house to paint as big as I do. So, yeah, it's been really great to reconnect to that piece and to just have it be purely about painting and having fun and letting whatever crazy images are in my head come out on paper and not have it matter. It can be ugly. In fact, many times it is. And I hate it, quote unquote, I hate it. My inner critic hates it, but my muse is having a ball.
She's clearly having a ball. And this is so much the heroine's journey that you're speaking of here, that, we leave the external. So you left your corporate job. You are running a business that does great service to the world, is an authentic expression of you and your passions, and yet there's this inner battle that's still happening. I call it the inner patriarch, like these internalized, deranged, quote-unquote masculine values of doing more, doing better. It's like this constant inner push that we're all living with and trying to come to terms with. And that art, creativity, especially for women, we are creators. Just biologically, that's our disposition, that it's really creativity that redeems us.
Yeah, I'm really glad that I've connected back to that in a deeper way. Yeah.
So what has it been like for you with this health crisis, if you would call it a crisis?
Yeah, it's more like it's been, I don't feel like there was one big thing that happened. It's been like this slow progression of something. I don't know what quite the right word is. But yeah, it's been really challenging. I think because it hasn't been so acute, it's been a lot easier to ignore. Or
like it's something you can kind of tolerate,
exactly.
Get by with.
Exactly. For the most part. I mean, there are some days where I'm like, I just don't want to get out of bed. Why is this happening to me? Fortunately, I'm on medication that helps me, and so. But then I think in a way that's what got me through 2014. Until it wasn't working anymore, and I had to up it. So, that's why this year I'm really trying to focus on lifestyle stuff and choices like that. So it's been. It's also thought, oh my God, is it just because I'm getting old? I have a little bit of that too. Which yes, I am, and I know there's others.
And you're not that old.
I know, I'm not that old. So
you're not like approaching 80.
No, of course not. Although some days I would feel like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely been more manageable, which is great. And I don't really know when I'm not going to feel good. I sort of know like travel really wears me out, or being out and about. There's certain things I know, so I'm trying to, be very mindful of those. And just really take care of myself. So, I've been someone who practices self-care pretty regularly, like for pretty much since I quit my corporate job. I practice what I call self-care Fridays, and that's where I don't do any meetings and I really take care of myself. But it's up until this year has been more of maybe incremental types of things or smaller things, which are great and I think are much needed. You fit them in when you can. What I'm exploring now is having this idea of embracing ease be more of a come from place. So that it really infuses who I am and what I do versus just be things that I practice, or like making sure I fit it in, but having it be more of a mindset.
So how are you making that a mindset?
Yeah. Well, definitely like having the time to do painting, like making choices to put that as a priority. The decision to really cut back with work and have people, I cut back a lot of things, like in terms of team stuff. Like I have people helping me, but I also got rid of some other roles that just I thought were helping, but just complicated things, because I thought that's what I needed to do to get to the next level. And once I decided I don't need to get to that next level, just kind of cutting that out and being okay with it. I've also been, more focused on my health. Like, I hate to cook. I really hate to cook. But I'm a picky eater, and I also have dietary things that I'm working with in terms of helping with inflammation. So even though it feels like extremely like luxurious or kind of, I don't know, excessive, I can't think of the right word, but I hired a personal chef. I'm like, I'm going to invest, like if I'm really putting my health first, this is something I want to invest in.
Yeah.
And that's big.
That's really big.
Yeah, I feel whenever I've just started to start talking about it publicly, because I feel like, oh God, like she has a personal chef, like who does she think she is? Well, it's someone who is really putting her health first. It's something I'm valuing.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
And what are some of these other like incremental self-care practices you mentioned that you've been doing more of? Some other lifestyle shifts?
Yeah. Well, just, small things to fit in the day. Like, I've been eating my lunch not at my desk, but either outside if it's nice, or in the kitchen where I can look out the window, not have my phone with me, and just enjoy the food cooked by my personal chef. And being really grateful, like, wow, I get to eat this. I didn't have to cook it. One other thing I know I've talked to you about before, I do love yoga. And while I was in corporate and right after I left, like I was really into Ashtanga yoga. Like I got certified in it. Like I really loved it. And I think that's partly why I hurt my back, because I was pushing myself too hard. It's just such a great metaphor for everything else.
Yeah.
I have to get into full pigeon and show people I can get into full pigeon.
I used to be the same way.
And for many years, I've had like this left SI joint problem, and I'm pretty sure it's from that. So I now do restorative yoga, and I found this really great class nearby. It's only once a week on Sundays, but oh my gosh, I love it so much. It's just, and it's so anti-Ashtanga,
Yeah.
We get all these props, and we just lie around like cats for like 20 minutes in each pose, and the teacher comes around and massages us. It's fantastic. But like that's a huge shift for me, and I actually really enjoy it, which is great. And then I bought some props of my own to do stuff at home. I'm like, I just need one more bolster and, another block, and I can do all these cool supported poses. Unfortunately, the teacher's not there to give me a massage, but it's a really nice way to, maybe it's just doing child's pose for 15 minutes, and then that's what's going to help me feel more grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what do you know now that you wish you knew, when you just left your corporate job and you were starting out? What would you tell that younger version of yourself about her journey ahead?
Yeah, there's so much to say. Stop making it so hard. One of the kind of messages I've been telling myself lately is I can stop striving and just simply savor. I wish I had known that more earlier on.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And as we're all here together as women, possibly men, listening, kind of rewriting and reframing our collective narrative on our rites of passage, on these very feminine journeys into empowerment. What would you definitely want to include in that as your contribution?
That's such a big question. I think there's a few things. One is, because I'm such an advocate of creativity, is, making sure that you're connecting with your creativity and that everyone is creative in their own way. I think a lot of times people get stuck in the mindset of, you're only creative if you're an artist, if you can draw. And creativity means so much more. It can be about just how you live your life, how you express yourself, and really owning that. And I think the other piece would be having some experience where you really, like for me, when I said I went through that leadership program of like, oh my gosh, like embodying, this is what it means for me to be a leader. And in whatever way that looks like for yourself, and then how you impact others around you, but to really allow yourself to claim what your strengths are as a leader. And it may be totally different than what you think it is supposed to look like, and to embrace that. And also to make sure that you have support, that you're not doing it alone. Whether that even just be with a few friends or having, conversations like you and I do every once in a while, but just to know you're not alone.
And Jen, I know that you mentioned your shifts with your business structure and lifestyle shifts. I'm wondering if there's anything, I know it's a lot, so if there's anything else that feels like your growing edge, like the next frontier of your own heroine's journey.
Yeah, I think it's just to be continuing that piece of putting my health first and really taking care of me and my body. Like that's been something that's been, just, I don't know if neglected is probably a really strong word. I don't know if it's that extreme, but certainly I've taken things for granted, So being more aware, and I'm still grappling with the ambitious side of me. Like I even find myself saying, well, for the business stuff, at least for like this year, maybe the next, I can just keep things the same. But that doesn't mean later that I can start going after these big dreams again. So it's just being conscious of, I have still a little bit of that, and I don't know if that will ever go away. But learning how to work with it in a way that actually serves me and is helpful, I think that's kind of the growing edge too.
Yeah, and it's like in that, because I've been going through the same thing. It's negotiating a new relationship between those two parts. So it's not, for me, so it's not always that the ambitious one is in charge, because she's just naturally very bossy and fiery and likes to take charge. So yeah, if I'm not careful, then she will.
Yeah. And it's like, one of the things I really love in like this distinction between like hero's journey and heroine's journey, like in the hero's journey, there's the part where you like slay the dragon, like you kill it, you get rid of it. It's so masculine. But what I get from like what you're doing with the heroine's journey, it's like, yes, there are these dark, shadow sides of you, or these demons, but you learn to dance with them, right? And to make them work with you in a way, because there are some great parts of having, ambition, but to not let it override you.
Yeah, and to learn to love them and have all of these parts operate within us like a harmonious family.
Exactly.
Rather than being at war with each other.
Exactly. Or to just shun it completely, like, no, I'm done with you, I want to kill that part. Like, then a part of you dies, and it's actually part of who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Jen. It's been really wonderful to have you here. Thank you for your openness and your vulnerability in sharing your journey. I know that it's definitely something I resonate with, and I know probably many women who are listening do as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you for creating this space to do it and for being brave with your own story, and that really inspires others to share.
If you're ready to go deeper into your heroine's journey, I invite you to explore my new book, The Book of She. You can visit thebookofshe.com to register your receipt for this order before October 30th. And when you do, you'll receive an invitation to join me and our community in a free online women's yoga and meditation class, as well as a live Q&A. Until next time, I'm sending you my heartfelt support. Thank you so much for being part of our sisterhood.